Lebanese demonstrators scuffled with security forces after protesting the sharp rise in telecom tariffs.
The tariff increase means that all phone and internet subscriptions will now need to be paid at the central bank's dollar rate, effectively raising bills exponentially. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
The Philippines logs 832 new COVID-19 infections today, following the rise in the weekly positivity rate to 6.8% last week. Marcos administration to source funds for additional fuel subsidies from windfall tax on petroleum products. Chinese State Chancellor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi meets with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo. Weapons store blast in Yemen kills 5 and injures 30 others. And NATO launches membership process for Sweden and Finland.
The Department of Health reported additional 832 new COVID-19 infections yesterday, raising the country's active cases to 10,032. Out of the 832 new cases, the Department of Health says 375 are from Metro Manila. Cavite logs 71 additional cases, while Iloilo has 43 new ones. Based on DOH data, 39 cases are from Laguna and 33 came from Rizal.
The Department of Health has reported that there are now almost 8,000 confirmed Omicron cases in the Philippines. Madeline Villar Moratillo has the report.
The Philippines has logged additional 190 cases of the more transmissible Omicron subvariants, bringing the country's total confirmed Omicron cases to 7,919. The Philippine Genome Center and National Institute of Health identified 43 BA.5, 20 BA.2.12.1, and 7 BA.4 cases from the 212 samples it sequenced. Out of the 43 BA.5 cases, 42 are local cases and 1 involves a returning overseas Filipino. 16 cases from the 20 BA.2.12.1 are local, the other 4 are ROFs, while the 7 BA.4 cases are all local. As of July 3, DOH data shows that the country's weekly positivity rate is 6.8%, while that of the National Capital Region is 9.3%. The DOH also observed a sharp increase in most cases of the country, with some logging 500 cases daily. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere assures the public that despite the increase in COVID-19 cases, the country's hospital bed utilization remains low and no death has been reported due to Omicron subvariants. Madeline Villar Moratillo reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The country's economic group has clarified President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s statement on the June inflation rate. For one, Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno said the president was misunderstood. Eden Santos reports.
Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno made a clarification on President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s disagreement on the June inflation rate reported by the Philippine Statistics Authority. At a palace briefing, Diokno said the president's disbelief over the 6.1% inflation in June was misunderstood. Diokno explained to reporters that the president was referring to the country's year-to-date inflation.
Among our peers, Indonesia's overall inflation climbed to 4.4% in June from 3.6% in May. Meanwhile, Thailand's inflation rate increased to 7.7% in June from 7.1% in May. Inflation in the Eurozone, which includes Germany, Italy, Spain, Italy, etc., stood at 8.6% in June, the highest in 11 years. And meanwhile, in the U.S., inflation rate reached a 40-year high of 8.6%.
In practice, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP projects the monthly inflation rate a few days before the official announcement. Jokno said the inflation rate of 6.1% for June 2022 is within the BSP's forecast range of 5.7 to 6.5% for the month. The official added that President Marcos was correct in saying that the current high inflation experience is global, citing the high inflation recorded by other countries like our neighbors in Asia, Eurozone, and even the United States.
Rest assured, the recent acceleration of inflation will be arrested by the government through addressing constraints in the food, energy, and transportation and logistics sectors.
Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Department of Finance has identified funding sources for the plan of the Marcos administration to continue the distribution of fuel subsidies to the public transport sector. In a briefing with Palace reporters, Diokno said the funding will be sourced from the tax collected on petroleum products. Diokno clarified that the increase in fuel prices will be returned to the public in the form of targeted subsidies. In Tuesday's cabinet meeting, President Marcos said the cabinet had discussed the funding for fuel subsidies, which would include tricycle drivers as beneficiaries.
Meron ng pagkukunan. Yung sinabi ko kanina, yung windfall tax. Kasi because nakaset naman yung specific tax on petroleum products, since tumaas yung presyo ng gasolina in the world market, tapos nag-depreciate ng konti yung peso, so the peso value of our imports has increased, so magkakaroon tayo ng additional revenue as a result of that. No? Doon natin kukunin yon. Yung pagtaas ng presyo ng gasolina, ibabalik natin sa taong bayan in the form of targeted subsidy. Hindi lahat makakakuha, but yung mga mas apektado, sila makakakuha nito.
Nearly 2 weeks before the formal opening of the 19th Congress, lawmakers take turns submitting their priority legislation at the House of Representatives. Here's Vic Somintak for the details.
Lawmakers from Bicol region have filed the 1.5 trillion peso National Economic Stimulus and Recovery Act for the Marcos administration. Camarines Sur Representative El Rey Villapuerte said President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. could use the proposed stimulus package to create sustainable jobs and kick the start of the country's recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Villapuerte added that the proposed bill is similar to the pandemic recovery packages laid out in the U.S., EU, South Korea, and Thailand. He clarified that he's pushing for the proposal, taking the cue from the presumptive House Speaker Martin Romualdez that Congress will prioritize the Bayan Bangon Muli or BBM bill in the 19th Congress. For his part, presidential son and first-time Ilocos Norte Congressman Sandro Marcos has filed 10 priority measures. Based on the records of the Bills and Index section of the House of Representatives, Congressman Marcos filed the following. House Bill Number 1 or Government Financial Institution Unified Initiative to Distress Enterprises for Economic Recovery or GUIDE. House Bill Number 3 or the E-Governance Act. House Bill Number 4 or Internet Transaction Act. House Bill Number 8 or Free Legal Assistance for Police and Soldiers. House Bill Number 10 or Creation of the Virology Institute of the Philippines. House Bill Number 11 or National Defense Act. House Bill Number 12 or right-sizing the national government. House Bill number 14 or SIM Card Registration Act, House Bill number 18 or Government Procurement Act, House Bill number 20 or Apprenticeship Bill. Congress will formally open its regular session on July 25 in time for President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s first State of the Nation address o SONA. Vic Somentak reporting for mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. swore in another batch of his newly appointed government officials. The president has retained 3 officials from the previous administrations, including Jose Manuel Romualdez as Philippine ambassador to the U.S., Ambassador Antonio Manuel Lagdameo as permanent representative of the Philippines to the United Nations, and Mark Lapid as chief operating officer of the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority, or TIEZA. Among those who took their oath of office were Tirso Cruz III as chairperson and chief executive of the Film Development Council, or FDC, Juni Kua as Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office chairperson, Romeo Lumagi Jr. as deputy commissioner for operations of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, and Juan Revilla as a board member of the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board. Also sworn in were Abdul Ghani Salapudin as Southern Philippines Development Authority Administrator and Chairman, Jose Arnulfo Veloso as President and General Manager of the Government Service Insurance System, Ramon Zagala as Presidential Security Group Commander and Senior Military Assistant, and Amena Pangandaman as Budget and Management Secretary.
Malacanang has no comment on the proposals to change the name of Ninoy Aquino International Airport to Ferdinand Marcos Jr. or Senior International Airport. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles told reporters that the palace was in no place to make a comment on the proposal right now. Angeles said that any comment from the palace on the matter would be premature since the bill was just filed, and it's too early to know if the proposal would push through.
Well, this is not a bill filed by Malacanang, so it's not our place to indicate whether it is timely or not. It was the congressman who filed it. So, no comment for right now. Particularly, it's very early stages, really. It's just been filed.
Coming up, Chinese foreign minister seeks a new golden era of ties with the Philippines. 2 Philadelphia police officers shot during a fireworks show. And NATO launches membership process for Sweden and Finland. Catch the details on these stories when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Hello po, this is Enzo Pineda at plus pogi points talaga kapag marunong kang magluto ng recovery food para sa mga mahal mo sa buhay.
Malapit na! Ngayong Sabado, alas 10 ng umaga, kita-kits!
Hindi ako kung hindi kayo ang bida. Napansin nyo ba na may kakaiba sa ating 1,000 peso bill?
Yung picture ko, magagamit mo rin siya as a way to spread message of conservation for our Philippine eagle.
Napatpad siya sa Maynila hanggang sa makarating siya sa Olongapo.
Manila to Olongapo, nilakad ko po 4 na araw.
Meron na siyang milyon-milyong followers sa kanyang Facebook at YouTube accounts at isa na rin sa pinakakilala at trusted na pangalan sa medical battlefield. Ano ang gagawin mo kapag may isang medical emergency na nangyayari from several thousand feet up in the air? Habang kayo ay nasa eroplano, let's continue to reach out to others. Ako po ang inyong host, Aga Mulak, para sa Bida Kayo Kay Aga.
The news continues here on Mata ng Agila International. China's State Chancellor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi is in Manila for an official state visit. He met with Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo in the morning and President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the afternoon. Eden Santos will tell us more.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has met with Chinese State Chancellor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi. The Chinese official arrived Tuesday night in Manila for his official state visit to the country. President Marcos received Wang at Malacanang's Music Room. The two officials discussed further in strengthening the bilateral relations between the Philippines and China in various areas of cooperation. In his press conference Tuesday, Marcos said that aside from the West Philippine Sea dispute, he would also discuss with Wang cultural and educational exchanges to help enhance the country's relations with Beijing. Earlier this morning, the Chinese Foreign Minister met with his Philippine counterpart, Secretary Enrique Manalo, at the Department of Foreign Affairs headquarters in Pasay City. The DFA tweeted that today's meeting between Secretary Manalo and SCFM Wang will tackle a wide range of issues, focusing on maintaining and building on the positive trend of relations between the Philippines and China.
No doubt that the security situation surrounding our countries and region has become more complex as political, economic, and social-cultural landscapes continually shift.
The Chinese official has expressed their appreciation for President Marcos' plan to continue pursuing a friendly policy with Beijing. He said such statements have sent out a positive signal to the outside world.
瑞士面对你刚才所说的这个充满不确定性和复杂性、不稳定性的国际体系形势，我们两个邻国更应该携起手来，加强我们的相互的信任，那么深化我们的互利合作。 维护好我们两国和两国人民的共同的利益，同时呢，为地区的和平稳定做出我们重要的贡献。
As of press time, no official statement was issued yet by the palace on the details of this afternoon's meeting between the President and Minister Wang. Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The European Union has invited President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to Brussels, Belgium. Vin Pasqua has the details.
After failing to attend the presidential inauguration, European Council President Charles Michel sent President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. an invitation to visit Belgium. EU Ambassador to the Philippines, Luc Veron, handed Michel's personal letter when he represented him and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen during Marcos's inauguration. In his letter, Michel invited Marcos to discuss bilateral relations between the Philippines and the bloc, the EU-Asian ties, foreign policy issues, and other matters. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles said the palace has not yet acknowledged invitations for the president to visit the EU and other countries.
Not yet. It was not, in fact, discussed during the cabinet meeting, so we'll wait for that one. He did acknowledge the other invitations. If you will recall, we just haven't calendared the invitation of China, so we'll wait for that one. Wala pa talagang acknowledgement. It wasn't even discussed. We'll announce it as soon as it's formal. All right. Thank you very much.
Aside from the EU, President Joe Biden also invited his Philippine counterpart to visit the U.S. There are also reports that Marcos is set to visit China, but no confirmation has been made regarding the matter. There are also reports that Marcos is set to visit China, but no confirmation has been made regarding the matter. Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
21-year-old Robert Cremo III has been charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder in connection with the 4th of July mass shooting in the upscale community of Highland Park in Illinois. Authorities also revealed what they have learned about the shooting.
But we do believe Cremo pre-planned this attack for several weeks. He brought a high-powered rifle to this parade. He accessed the roof of a business via a fire escape ladder and began opening fire on the innocent Independence Day celebration goer. During the attack, we believe that Cremo fired more than 70 rounds from this rifle into the crowd of innocent people. Following the attack, Cremo exited the roof, he dropped his rifle, and he blended in with the crowd, and he escaped. He walked to his mother's home, who lived in the area, and he blended right in with everybody else as they were running around, almost as he was an innocent spectator as well. During the attack, Cremo was dressed in women's clothing, and investigators do believe he did this to conceal his facial tattoos and his identity and help him during the escape with the other people who were fleeing the chaos.
In another July 4th shooting, 2 police officers were wounded when they came under fire during a fireworks display in Philadelphia. Sounds of gunfire sent people running during the U.S. Independence Day show. Philadelphia Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw said both officers had been released from the hospital after receiving treatment. Authorities said the incident is still under investigation.
An official reported that at least 5 people were killed and 30 wounded in an explosion at a weapons warehouse in southern Yemen. The 2 building had collapsed in the blast and survivors were pulled from its ruins. Nearby structures were also damaged. The security official, who did not want to be named, said the weapons were being stored at the bottom of the building in Laudar, a city known for its arms market. The cause of the blast is still unknown. Yemen has been engulfed in war since 2015 when a Saudi-led coalition intervened after Houthi rebels seized the capital, Sana'a.
NATO kicks off momentous accession procedures for Sweden and Finland, aiming to expand the military alliance to 32 countries in reaction to the Ukraine war. NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg says this is a historic day for Finland, Sweden, NATO, and Euro-Atlantic security. The foreign ministers of Sweden and Finland, alongside Stoltenberg, also qualified the occasion as historic. The 2 Nordic countries had long maintained non-alignment status, even though they have held exercises with NATO and have interoperable weapons systems. In a sudden change of course, Sweden and Finland asked to come under NATO's mutual defense umbrella. They announced intentions to join NATO in May, triggered by Russia's February invasion of Ukraine and its ongoing war there. Their bids hit a road bump when Turkey, a NATO member, threatened to block their entry, an issue Finnish Foreign Minister Pekka Haavisto hopes has been addressed.
In this document and in this memorandum, we have actually addressed all those concerns that also Turkey had raised, including the terrorism, the PKK issue and so forth, and all those steps that are necessary to be taken are mentioned in the memorandum. So I'm very much thinking that based on that cooperation that we agreed, we can go forward and also hopefully please the concerns of Turkey at this moment.
What would happen if some member country ratified Finland's
It's also on NATO's agenda, on all countries' agenda. Do you?
Wrapping up a 2-day conference in southern Switzerland, Swiss President Ignacio Cassis and Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal hail a new declaration committing to support Ukraine as an important step. Leaders from some 40 countries signed the Lugano Declaration, committing to support Ukraine through a likely long and expensive recovery, including the need for broad reforms to boost transparency and root out corruption.
Lugano, we have taken an important step on the long road to Ukraine's recovery. This opens up prospects for the future. There is a palpable willingness among all partners for a joint long-term commitment in the interests of the people of Ukraine.
We should create conditions when corruption will be impossible. So first of all is digitalization. So we digitalized many spheres in our country. First of all, investment sphere, constructing and architectural sphere. It's absolutely developed and digitalized, and it's make corruption in this sphere impossible.
Ukrainian Premier Shmyhal also said the adoption of the declaration, along with a set of 7 founding principles for Ukraine's reconstruction, gives great hope. Shmyhal vowed that they will be victorious, and together they will renew Ukraine and make it better than it was before.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov urged all parties in the world to make efforts to protect international laws as the world is evolving in a complicated manner.
Международная обстановка развивается таким образом, что вновь требуется объединение усилий всех здравомыслящих людей для того, чтобы не допустить продвижения неоколониального диктата, отстаивать принципы международного права, принципы устава ООН, прежде всего принцип суверенного равенства государств и невмешательства.
Lavrov was speaking through a translator at a meeting with his Vietnamese counterpart Bui Tan Son in Hanoi. He said that Russia and Vietnam's relationship is based on common history and fight for justice.
Наш ключевой партнер и в рамках АСЕАН в контексте общих процессов, которые развиваются на Евразийском континенте.
Vietnam and Russia have close ties dating back to the Soviet era, and Hanoi has not condemned Russia's war in Ukraine so far. The Russian foreign minister is due to fly on to Indonesia to attend a meeting of G20 foreign ministers this week.
Up next, in a blow to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, 2 UK senior ministers resign. Israel approves COVID vaccines for youngest children. And 81 live tortoises seized at a Thai airport. Stay tuned. Mata ng Agila International. We'll be right back.
At abangan niyo po ako bilang guest performer ng Letters and Music ngayong Sabado, that will be on July 9 from 1 to 2 p.m. At syempre, dito lang sa Net25. See you there!
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders, Quezon City Motor Vehicle Inspection Center.
The news continues here on Mata ng Agila International. In a handwritten letter, American basketball star Brittany Griner asks U.S. President Joe Biden to free her from a Russian prison. Portions of the letter were made public by her family. Two-time Olympic champion Griner, who's been detained in Russia since February on drug smuggling charges, tells Biden that she fears she might never be freed. Griner writes, "As I sit here in a Russian prison, alone with my thoughts and without the protection of my family, friends, Olympic jersey, or any accomplishments, I am terrified I might be here forever." Griner's trial began Friday on charges of trying to smuggle vape cartridges with hashish oil into Russia, where she has played in the women's NBA offseason in previous years. She faces up to 10 years in prison. Griner's letter was presented to the White House on the U.S. Independence Day holiday, which Griner says has an all-new meaning for her this year. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says President Biden did read a letter from Griner and that this is an issue that requires utmost concern.
So I can say that the president did read the letter. I was there when he read the letter. This is something, Brittany Griner being held in Moscow, we believe the Federation is she's being wrongfully detained in Moscow at this time. This is an issue that is a priority for this president. As you have heard us say before, he believes that any U.S. national that is held abroad or detained or held hostage abroad, we need to bring back safely, and we are going to use every tool that we possibly can to make that happen. I do want to share that on Saturday, Mrs. Griner spoke.
Ukraine continues to receive weapons supplied by NATO. However, an overt operation set up by RT, a Russian state-controlled international television network, uncovers a wide scale of these foreign-supplied weapons being sold on the black market through the dark web. RT had set up a sting operation with Ukrainian arms dealers, and the phony deal was to purchase foreign-supplied weapons on the black market. A dark web vendor promptly responded to RT's inquiry. According to RT, the relatively low cost of the delivery options may indicate that illegal arms traders may also have contact with border guards. Western aid to Ukraine so far has hit a whopping $6.1 billion worth of weapons delivered. Pentagon, on the other hand, cannot account for the weapons it ships, and dark web purchases can lead to serious problems.
The UK Chancellor and Health Secretary have both resigned from the government, saying they no longer have confidence in Prime Minister Boris Johnson to lead the country. Chancellor Rishi Sunak announced his resignation as Prime Minister Boris Johnson came under fire for his handling of a sleaze scandal involving a senior colleague. Sunak said the public expected the government to be conducted properly, competently, and seriously. He also tweeted that he believes these standards are worth fighting for, and that is why he is resigning. Health Secretary Sajid Javid echoed Sunak's sentiments, saying the government was not acting in the national interest. He said that he regrets his resignation, but he can no longer continue in good conscience serving under Boris' cabinet. Their resignations were announced minutes after the Prime Minister apologized for appointing MP Chris Pincher, who quit last week after he was accused of drunkenly groping two men. Boris' handling of the role has faced fierce criticism from the opposition and some of his own MPs. Education Secretary Nadeem Zahawi has been named as the new Chancellor, and Downing Street Chief of Staff Steve Barclay will replace Javid as Health Secretary.
Israel's health ministry approves Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccinations for its youngest children. The Israeli approval follows the U.S. FDA granting emergency authorization for Moderna's vaccines for kids ages 6 months to 5 years, and Pfizer shots for those between 6 months and 4 years old. A handful of other countries and territories, including Argentina, Bahrain, Chile, China, Cuba, Hong Kong, and Venezuela, were previously offering COVID shots for toddlers. But these did not include mRNA vaccines, regarded as the leading technology for the purpose. A July 1 letter by Israeli Health Ministry Director General Nachman Ash, sent to AFP on Tuesday, noted 2 hearings held by a ministry panel, in which Pfizer and Moderna data on the mild side effects and efficacy rates were presented. All members of the expert panel agreed the vaccines were safe. Over 6 million Israelis have received at least 2 COVID-19 vaccination shots. Included in them are 17% of the country's children ages 5 to 11, which had been the youngest group eligible for the inoculation up to the latest approval.
In Lebanon, protesters scuffled with security forces after marching against a hike in telecommunications tariffs implemented this month amid a crippling economic crisis. Protesters gather outside the offices of the MTC Touch Telecoms company, where security forces attempt to clear them from the area. Civil society activist Ula Al-Haraka says bread is their right, and so are education, healthcare, and housing. The protesters put the blame on the Ministry of Energy, the electricity company, the banking association, and the telecommunications company, saying these are the ones robbing them of their rights.
Billions of funds are waiting to be spent on American schools in an effort to help students catch up. This after American school kids have reportedly fallen behind 2 to 4 months in subjects like reading and mathematics. Jeff Sanidad has the details.
By launching the national effort to support student success, schools are called upon to take advantage of the billions in American Rescue Plan, or ARP funds, to help students make up for the lost learning time due to the pandemic. The White House says America's students are on average 2 to 4 months behind in reading and math because of the COVID-19 health crisis. With $122 billion in ARP funding, President Joe Biden says schools can provide high-quality tutoring, summer learning and enrichment, and after-school programs. He says these are proven strategies to help students make up for the lost learning time and succeed in school and in life. They include supporting the mental health of school-age children. The White House says other ways to help American students catch up and thrive includes individuals learning more about supporting youth through a range of volunteer and national service opportunities, community-based organizations expanding or improving tutoring, mentoring, and other programs, employers supporting employees serving as volunteers, colleges and universities partnering with K-12 schools and community-based organizations. Jeff Sanidad, Washington, D.C., Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
As cities across the U.S. celebrated Independence Day this past weekend, the town of Frisco, Texas, holds its own unique celebrations as well. Kathleen Gregorio reports.
One of the popular ways to spend 4th of July in North Texas is by attending the Frisco Freedom Fest, a celebration of the nation's birthday with day-long activities such as a taste of Frisco with food booths from local restaurants, a patriotic vendor village, a party in the plaza, family fun activities, live music, a children's expo, a classic car and motorcycle show, and the highlight of the event, which is a 20-minute fireworks extravaganza. At approximately 10:15 p.m., fireworks lit up the night sky following the conclusion of the FC Dallas soccer match that took place at Toyota Stadium. Considered one of the biggest shows in North Texas, the 20-minute fireworks display brought many families and neighbors to come and bond together as a community while celebrating America's Independence Day. You can find out more by visiting friscofreedomfest.org. Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Mata ng Agila International, Frisco, Texas. Trusted, connected, on point.
Papua New Guinea leaders took a significant step in protecting and preserving the culture and the arts of the nation. Eco Hortaleza Quinola in Port Moresby has the report.
Let's witness is the first ever launching of the National Cultural Policy here at the APEC House, Port Moresby.
A well-celebrated day beams with traditional songs and dances at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Building. Today, Papua New Guinea's Honorable Prime Minister James Marape launches the first ever National Cultural Policy 2022 to 2032. Prime Minister Marape says it is a portal for economic potential and cultural tourism. He says this will prepare the future of Papua New Guinea as it addresses issues close to the heart of the nation and the people. The policy is expected to serve as a roadmap to appropriate interventions and actions.
Our culture is something that can be converted into the benefit of our citizens and our children who will come after us, and after entitled our conversation, see culture also from an economic perspective. And so foundationally, the next 10 years is very, very important.
Honorable James Marape congratulates Director Stephen Kilanda of the National Cultural Commission and his team, and to the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Honorable E.C. Henry Leonard, for a job he says was well done.
Now that we have a government that sees culture as an integral part of this country, through this policy, we need the continuity of this government.
The policy, if embraced, is expected to ensure protection, preservation, and safeguarding of culture and the arts.
Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Matalang Agila International, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Trusted, connected, on point.
Some 81 livestock tortoises were rescued at Bangkok Airport. The tortoises are worth around $22,619, or about 1,260,000 pesos. They were found in the luggage of an Indian man arriving from Chennai on Tuesday. The tortoises were rescued and moved to the Department of National Park, Wildlife and Plant Conservation for further treatment. Meanwhile, the man could be charged with violating the Wildlife Preservation and Protection Act, the Animal Epidemics Act, and the Customs Act. Thailand is a major hub for smugglers, with animals often destined for Vietnam or China, where they are used in traditional medicine.
In mid-October, the first cruise ship built in France to be powered by LNG, or liquefied natural gas, will be delivered to the Italian-Swiss ship owner MSC Cruises. Henry Doyer, director of MSC Cruises programs at Chantiers de l'Atlantique, says the ship's carbon dioxide emissions will be the lowest in the industry. Patrick Porbay, managing director of MSC Cruises, says LNG is very clear and is first and foremost a cleaner fuel. Coming right up, Emirates plane flies for almost 14 hours with a large hole in its side. Chinese electric vehicle may be the new Tesla killer. And teens in suits banned from UK cinemas. As TikTok craze around new minions, the rise of Gru takes off. Get the latest in technology, business, and entertainment when Matalang Agila International returns.
Abangan sa Lutong Daza.
Pagkain pampalakas.
Mga recipes na dapat alam natin lahat para maalagaan natin ng husto ang mga mahal natin sa buhay.
Chicken sotanghon soup, arroz caldo, chicken sopas, honey lemon salmati. Bata-bata pa, kalimutin lang.
Kasama natin ang ating special guest, ang gwapong-gwapo na si Enzo Pineda, na siguradong magpapasaya sa ating lahat. Kita-kits sa Lutong Daza.
Hi guys! Ako nga po pala si Nonay Peña at abangan niyo po ako bilang guest performer sa #Letters and Music ngayong darating na Sabado, July 9, 1 to 2 p.m. Siyempre dito lamang sa Net25. See you po!
Sa tuwina, lagi kang nasa isip sinta. Sana'y narito ka at magkapiling na nang hindi nanalo.
This portion is brought to you by Dai One Industrial Sales.
We now welcome you back to Mata ng Agila International. In what is being labeled as 1 in a million case, an Emirates plane flew for nearly 14 hours with a large hole in its side. The pilots and passengers of the Airbus A380 flight were shocked that their flight still somehow continued flying despite the massive damage to their aircraft. According to the Aviation Herald, crew and passengers on board reported a loud bang roughly 45 minutes after the plane took off from Dubai's main airport. The pilots believe that one of the plane's tires may have blown and alerted air traffic control in Brisbane, requesting emergency services be on standby. When the plane successfully landed and the passengers made their way off the aircraft, engineers found a large gaping hole in the left-hand wing root fairing. Emirates then explained that the incident was the result of one of the A380's 22 tires experiencing a technical fault during takeoff. The airline said the passenger jet has already been completely fixed and its fairing replaced, checked and cleared by engineers and all other relevant authorities.
Warning, this is a sensitive story. A 2-year-old boy suffered from a broken jaw and severe injuries on the face after he was attacked by a neighborhood Rottweiler. The incident, which was captured on a video posted on social media, shows the toddler and his 4-year-old brother taking a walk with their nanny in a residential area in Pattaya, Thailand. As they passed a house with an open gate, the dog suddenly charged at them, and it went on to attack the 2-year-old, its mouth clamped against his jaw. 3 adults finally managed to pull the dog away, and the toddler was rushed to the hospital where he received 200 stitches. He was then transferred to Bangkok due to the severity of his wounds. The boy is expected to fully recover. Rottweilers are known to be aggressive to children if they are not well trained.
Soldiers of the Venezuelan army marched during a military parade to celebrate the 211th anniversary of the Venezuelan independence in Caracas. On July 5, 1811, Venezuela declared itself independent of the Spanish Empire. The state was established based on republican and federal principles, where 7 out of the 10 provinces supported the autonomy of the homeland, beginning the First Republic. President Nicolas Maduro called on the national army not to rest on its laurels, but to stay alert against the curse that showed itself more aggressive in its last days. Maduro also honored and promoted 15,319 men and women who have dedicated their lives to the service of Venezuela.
Les toca a ustedes ser la oficialidad bolivariana de la era bicentenaria 2022-2030 y llegar invictos a aquel 17 de diciembre del 2030.
After the authorization of the promotions, President Maduro, with Bolivar's sword in hand, took the Bolivarian oath from them.
The largest fulfillment center for Amazon operations in Japan is fitted with 1,800 robots to improve delivery speeds and reduce staff workload. The online retail giant's warehouse is a 4-story building that also has a size of 14 football fields. Hiroaki Watanabe, director of Amazon's Customers Fulfillment Solutions for Japan, says Amazon Japan can accommodate 10 million products and ship about 450,000 products per day.
The robotics is we call that drives, which brings shelvings from the inventory space to the station. Once customer places an order, so the robot brings the shelvings to the station so that association pick the items from the pod quickly. So that is going to improve the speed of delivery.
Watanabe says their maintenance team inspects every robot, making sure all robots are healthy and will not cause any troubles during the operation. This way, they can keep running Amazon's operation 24 hours a day.
The pound has fallen to a 2-year low against the dollar, reflecting traders' increasing concerns about global recession as energy prices continue to soar. Analysts said the sterling is also weak because markets are worried about future UK economic growth. They added that the sterling could fall even further after predictions of economic stagnation and as inflation rises. Nonetheless, London shares regained some ground today following yesterday's falls despite the resignation of 2 senior government ministers. Economic analysts explain that a weak pound means that imports such as food become more expensive and it pushes up the price of petrol at the pumps. It also means that UK holiday makers get less for their money when buying abroad. However, UK products and services that are sold abroad can become more attractively priced for foreign customers.
Chinese auto producer BYD sold more than 641,000 electric vehicles in the first 6 months of the year. That according to the Chinese media. That makes it the world's top electronic vehicle maker in terms of sales. The result is also better than Elon Musk's Tesla, which delivered 564,000 electric cars during the same period. This figure marks a 315% year-on-year increase in sales for the Chinese EV maker. Last month, BYD announced plans to supply batteries to Tesla very soon. Based on the company's latest annual report, rechargeable batteries and photovoltaic cells made up 7.29% of BYD's revenue pool in 2021, dwarfed by the more than 50% share taken up by auto and related products.
Minions: The Rise of Gru is making it big at the box office. Illumination and Universal Pictures' Minions prequel, the latest animated film in the Despicable Me franchise, just made an estimated $125 million domestically for its 4-day opening weekend. According to Deadline, that gives the newest Gru film the record for the biggest opening over the July 4th holiday weekend, surpassing Transformers: Dark of the Moon, which made $115 million in 2011. Aside from Steve Carell and Pierre Coffin, Rise of Gru's voice cast includes Julie Andrews as Gru's mother and Alan Arkin as Wild Knuckles, who becomes a mentor of sorts for Gru. Additionally, the movie's 1970s-inspired soundtrack comes from Grammy-winning music producer Jack Antonoff.
In a related news, some British cinemas have banned people from wearing formal attire after swathes of teens followed a TikTok trend of attending screenings of Minions: Rise of Gru dressed in suits and behaving disruptively. The viral #GentleMinion trend has garnered millions of views as some teens even eat bananas, the favorite food of Minions from the franchise films. As part of a new viral craze, the youngsters have also recorded videos of themselves and posted them on social media. But the behavior that accompanies the trend, cheering, clapping, shouting, and mimicking the Minions characters has caused issues for other displeased filmgoers. It has also led to many cinemas being forced to offer refunds to those not in on the joke. The #GentleMinion trend took off right after the release of the new film on July 1st. The movie studio Universal Pictures has not helped discourage the despicable behavior, though, even tweeting, "We see you and we love you" to the so-called GentleMinions.
For this UK artist, the key to good art is a typewriter. Here's Eribel Celestino to tell us more.
James Cook sits at his desk quietly, with the only sound of his typewriter. As he works, a portrait of a boy takes shape. From Hollywood star Tom Hanks to the London Eye observation wheel, the artist can turn symbols and letters into art, earning him increasing attention. Cook, 25, produces his work in a studio in London, surrounded by typewriters and artwork, with the white dome of the O2 Arena visible outside. He began producing typewriter art in 2014 when he was in college studying art and came across an artist from the 1920s who produced similar work. Initially, he thought the idea was impossible until he tried it himself. It was simply out of curiosity that I decided to go out and get my own typewriter. Since 2014, I've just been slowly learning how to make drawings, he said. Cook first thought depicting buildings would be easier because of the straight lines being from left to right on a typewriter. I couldn't draw people's faces before doing typewriter art, he said. In fact, I probably draw people better on a typewriter than I can draw freehand in pen or pencil. Cook never set out to make it a career and went to university to study architecture. But interest online encouraged him to pursue typewriter art. People donate typewriters to Cook as he gives machine a second life. From the United Kingdom, I am Eribel Celestino for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Meanwhile, this Japanese grandpa began making YouTube art tutorials when he was nearly 70. 5 years on, he has gained 1.4 million subscribers. Harumichi Shibasaki films everything himself for his channel, Watercolor by Shibasaki. And unlike the attention-grabbing antics of most top YouTubers, he has won hearts with his calm, soothing manner. He has also built a global following thanks to English subtitles. Shibasaki's videos range from how to paint cherry blossoms to snapshots of daily life, such as cooking bamboo shoots dug up from his garden. The 74-year-old loved painting from a young age. He studied art at 18 and later became an art teacher. But it was his son who encouraged him to post on YouTube, a chance for the instructor with decades of experience to reach a global audience.
ただ自分がそれに今直接ね、隅っこにいさせてもらって、夢のようですね。はい。どんな絵描きでも必ず絵が描けなくなるんですよ。目も悪くなったり、手が震えたり、自分がもう75になるから、 もうまともに絵が描けるのはあと5年ぐらいかなって思ってます。だからその間になんか残せるものがあるんだったら国の中に残していきたいなと思ってます。
And now time for a quick look back on what happened today in history. In 1885, Louis Pasteur successfully tested an anti-rabies vaccine by administering it to a 9-year-old boy attacked by a rabid dog. The boy survived and avoided contracting rabies, which would have almost certainly proved fatal. But had the vaccine failed, Pasteur could have been prosecuted because he was not a licensed physician. In 1942, Anne Frank's family went into hiding in Amsterdam and lived in a secret annex. During the next 2 years and under the threat of murder by the patrolling Nazi officers, the Jewish teen kept a diary that is marked by pathos, humor, and insight. This diary later became a classic of war literature. And in 1946, George W. Bush was born in New Haven, Connecticut. The 43rd U.S. president led his country's response to the September 11 terrorist attacks in 2001 and ordered the invasion of Iraq in 2003. His administration's failed response to Hurricane Katrina, one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history, undermined Bush's reputation for being an effective crisis manager and a decisive leader.
We end tonight's broadcast with a quote from Ziad Abdelnour, an American author and financier. He says, "Remember, whoever is trying to bring you down is already below you."
Never, ever let them.
Why waste energy on them? And that's a wrap for tonight's broadcast. To catch the latest updates on our social media channels, I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.